you. I would like to, first of all, express my gratitude for the opportunity to speak here today, to give you an insight into the educational practices regarding virtual simulation and
nuestras prácticas en simulación virtual.
debriefing. Before I start, I would like to underline that I have no conflict of interest, and in the presentation I am using we instead of I, since the content of the presentation is based on the work from different research groups and not just
diferentes razones por las cuales nosotros podemos utilizar este tipo de tecnología.
It is amazing how we have advanced communication and sharing knowledge digitally, especially since COVID-19. So while I am sitting in Drammen, which is 40 kilometers from Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, you are sitting in Mexico City or perhaps somewhere other places in the world.
En otra parte del mundo.
I am originally from Iceland, since I have the world map up here, but I have been living in Norway for the last 21 years.
Por los últimos 21 años.
Just very short about my university. It's 8-campus university spread around the south and eastern part
con
of
8
Norway.
campuses que están en toda Noruega.
In the purple spots, and we have nursing education offered in 3 of our campuses.
En básicamente todos
This means that we have about 500 students enrolling in our here. And my campus is located, as I said, in Drammen, and it is where the Red Wing is located.
Es donde estamos ubicados.
You can have a view of the
ver lo que es la universidad.
Right now.
Aquí, esta es la universidad donde yo me encuentro en este momento.
To give you a little bit context about the nursing education in Norway, it is 180 ECTS and is regulated by national learning programs.
Dividido en 3 años.
It will be classified as a competency-based curriculum, divided into 3 areas, which is in general competence. And half of the nursing education is in clinical rotation, mostly 8 weeks, where the focus in the first year is on anatomy and physiology, as well as nursing, fundamental nursing care and learning clinical skills. Here, the nursing students are in one clinical rotation for 10 weeks in the municipalities, that is in the nursing homes, or in home-based nursing care. In the second year, the focus is on advancing professional knowledge with physiology and pharmacology, and the appropriate nursing interventions and nursing care for acute critical ill patients, as well as the medical and surgical care for both theoretically and clinically, with one clinical rotation in a medical ward and one in a surgical ward. And then in the third year, the focus is on quality improvement and leadership, and geriatric nursing and mental health nursing with 8 weeks clinical rotation in nursing homes again, and in home-based nursing care and mental health institutions. Our experiences with virtual patients began in 2019 when we bought the simulation table from Body Interact and access to a certain number of virtual patients. We started to get to know the software and to use the simulation table by experimenting together with the
diferentes cosas.
both at the bachelor level and the master level.
Tenemos
Las ofertas in the intensive care master education, in the advanced practice nursing master education,
y que con diferentes geografías y con el
the radiograph education both and bachelor level.
In
the presentation today, I will give examples from the nursing education.
Tenemos aquí algunos ejemplos de lo que sería la educación de enfermería y también en el caso de la intervención radiológica.
In our work, we have experienced that virtual patients
paciente virtual realmente ha sido muy útil.
Bioscience topics are the courses that we more components in can be used can be addressed with using virtual patients.
Utilizando este tipo de software profesionales y podemos utilizarlo en una educación de enfermería.
Then we specify the kind of cases, the background and recommendation.
Tenemos una paciente virtual para lo que son los cuidados fundamentales, temas de biociencia, comunicación profesional, éticas,
in precise and clear communication, patient safety and quality of care.
lo que sería la calidad de la atención y la seguridad.
Why not to use the virtual patient encounters to discuss ethical issues with the students? What are the professional standards of care? Or are there any ethical issues that we have to be aware of in one particular case? We have used, for example, a case where there's an elderly gentleman with a dementia, which has a urinary retention, which presents the possibility to discuss both ethical and communicational challenges with the students. We have some really interesting discussions with the students.
Permite tener grandes
And regarding professional communication, the virtual patients represent the opportunity to learn the principles of professional communication. For example,
como ya mencioné, la documentación profesional,
students are assigned to write nursing plans,
planes de enfermería,
and not at least the virtual patient can be used to practice collaboration.
Muy efectivo cuando se trabaja.
And the example of that was when we used the virtual patient in the intensive care.
Hemos utilizado en cuidados intensivos mucho, en la educación de cuidados intensivos, para la educación intensivista, y hemos trabajado con salas de cuidados intensivos, colaborando muchísimo en la educación con de los pacientes, y hemos estado refinándolo bastante.
We have used the virtual simulation in auditorium, in large teaching groups, large groups. The students have used individual
evaluaciones,
size group in classrooms.
Grupos muy grandes, que enseñándoles utilizando ese tipo de educación.
And this brings us to the first example of educational practices that I would like to share with you today. When COVID-19 hit us, we had
nosotros teníamos,
but we, like everybody else, were forced to think differently.
Fuimos forzados a tener que rediseñar esto.
Students were the ones that were most vulnerable due to these changes, because many of them have never been in clinical contacts before.
Nunca habíamos visto esto en el
So we created
pero creamos
by redesigning the ordinary 10-week clinical rotation
estas herramientas para trabajar y ajustar a nuestro curso y utilizarlo en un ambiente.
The structure and the organization of the redesigned clinical course during those 10 weeks.
Lo que hicimos fue preparar el trabajo con las herramientas de organización. Los estudiantes se dividieron en dos grupos que trabajaron durante 3 semanas para realizar el trabajo y la experiencia. Y trabajamos de esta forma durante toda la crisis. Y tenemos esta estructura y este enfoque que nos permitió trabajarlo incluso con las evaluaciones. La atención de los clientes, primero, por ejemplo, trabajaron con la evaluación de la vía aérea. Y trabajaron y las sesiones de grupo trabajaron en la simulación y realizó a los equipos simular diferentes simulaciones. La estructura de cómo fue nuestra sesión de simulación virtual.
The first column to the left states the pedagogical focus
lo que será
as the
el
initial aim
enfoque
for simulation
pedagógico,
session, which
donde
was in
tuvimos
this
las
case to
sesiones, en este
face
caso
the
para la evaluación respiratoria, como lo mencioné,
to provide appropriate nursing interventions.
las intervenciones de enfermería
In the next column, that
para
shows
los
the
pacientes
assignments
virtuales. Después
indicating the
tuvimos
opportunity
las preasignaturas, donde tuvimos
virtual
3
patient
casos
cases with the same clinical problem before the actual group simulation. The group simulation session through Zoom took about 75 minutes, and the students were divided into active participants and observers throughout the session. By using Zoom, the facilitators share the screen and execute all the actions in the virtual patient case. However, it was the active students that decided what actions should be taken in the simulation case. So 5 to 10 minutes were dedicated to an intro and a small talk, how are we doing and so on. 45 to 50 minutes were for the actual virtual patient encounter and the reflections. And then 5 to 10 minutes was devoted to finishing up and how did it go and do we have to make some changes until next time. And the column from to the far right, as it is important to state the learning outcomes for the students to show the students what is the aim of the actual simulation session. So we specified them, and in this case it was identifying patient resources, basic healthcare needs, health condition by using a systematic approach, and mapping patient clinical situation, and so on. So in the redesigned clinical course, this was the structure of all the 4 virtual patient sessions. And the experiences from this redesigned clinical course by using virtual simulation through Zoom has shaped our understanding of debriefing in virtual simulation, which we found quite different than in traditional high-fidelity simulation sessions. And the most important thing was that we were never interested in solving the virtual patient case or completing the virtual patient case. And the most important document for us who facilitated the cases were actually the stop and pause document. And the possibility to stop and pause the simulation that created a space for us to explore the clinical actions that the students wanted to take, and the intervention kind of creating reflection in action, on action. And this was based on using Socratic communication. And also there is no doubt that, as we call it, human in the loop adds a value to achieving learning outcomes in the virtual simulation, especially related to level of knowledge, clinical reasoning, and critical thinking. And by this I mean that the active participation from the experienced facilitator adds a value to the virtual simulation sessions. As I said, the students had the opportunity to individually simulate on their own, but they prefer the group session because of the discussion. So because of the discussions which were based on Socratic communication, by using the words like why, how, and what, gave us an opportunity to dig deeper into the students' level of knowledge and how they argued professionally for the action they wanted to make was really valuable. And like I said, the pause and stop button created a space for reflecting on the action taking right away instead of waiting at the end of the simulation as we do in ordinary simulation sessions. And this becomes a method of learning how to verbalize the knowledge that you have inside. Then the knowledge becomes more embedded within. The examples of the questions that we had in the simulation session based on Socratic communication is: why do you think the level of oxygen saturation changed when you elevated the patient upper body? What can be the reason for changes in the mental status? Now you have suggested multiple nursing interventions. How would you prioritize those? What to do first and why? what can be the physiology explanation for the reduction of the level of blood pressure, for example. So this really gave us the opportunity to go layer by layer and in depth into students' knowledge. And by using a Zoom as a mediation platform for the virtual simulation, it gave us an important pedagogical perspectives on the debriefing phase. And caring facilitation throughout the simulation session seems to be crucial for the students because of their vulnerability when knowledge gaps are revealed in front of peers. And that will happen. And they need to be met with a caring attitude from the facilitator to help them to cope in that situation, because it's embarrassing not to know. And the use of Socratic communication can also challenge the facilitator's communication skills. And as a facilitator, one has to be prepared for that and to cultivate this type of question and communication form before or prior to the virtual simulation sessions. Also, many can experience curriculum in nursing education in Norway and in my university as very fragmented. However, when we use the virtual patient and reflective debriefing, it can be a way to uncover the red thread between the different domains of the professional knowledge in nursing education. At the same time, to highlight the relevance of ethics, basic nursing care, collaboration, communication, all in one and single clinical situation. And in addition to creating coherence and relevancy between these different domains of knowledge, the use of virtual patients and this kind of debriefing can contribute to student preparedness for professional practice by helping them to verbalize the level of knowledge and to use professional language to argumentation that is important for interdisciplinary collaboration and how to think and speak matters. As such, we understand that debriefing in virtual simulation that would be an ongoing discussion and reflections between the participants and deliberate exploration of cognitive thinking processes and reasoning to strengthen professional knowledge. And also to understand the clinical cues that are presented in the virtual patient cases, and to catch them and to be able to act accordingly to promote patient safety and quality of care, as well to train skills of critical thinking and awareness of all clinical practices. And for us, the word debriefing in virtual simulation was kind of too narrow to capture this essence of our understanding of debriefing. And so we would like to use the word reflective debriefing, which can be more suitable for our way of thinking. The facilitator plays an important role in accomplishing the reflective level of debriefing and in helping the students to accomplish the learning outcomes and to thrive in the learning environment, which was digital. And by communicating the following factors, the facilitator contributes to a safe learning environment. There is a need to explain the rule of engagement, which involves explaining how to the student group how to use constructive and respectful communication to each other and to the facilitator. Clarifying different roles in the simulation, who is going to be most active and who is going to be observed, who is going to do and who is going to check books. Acknowledging students' vulnerability, and this involves the facilitator personal attitude and understanding that not all the students thrive in this kind of exposure of oneself or one's level of knowledge that comes with participation in this kind of simulation. And also caring communication. It is expected that the students get it wrong before they get it right, and the virtual patient encounter has to be a safe place to do that. Or rephrasing, it is actually important that the students do failures, they do something wrong, also because we need to give them a toolbox for knowing what to do and discussing the failures as an important aspect of professional development. And also, in the last is about adjusting the reasoning processes. So we have to also be very aware that we cannot just say what the students do wrong. We have to understand why it's wrong and what is right. And this means that we have to adjust the cognitive processes, and we have to role model how we think when we reason clinically, and how to understand the clinical cues. And therefore, we think that to succeed as a facilitator in this role and with reflective debriefing, there are some prerequisites that a facilitator should have an overview of the different courses of the curriculum to be able to show the value of the different knowledge domains that are connected in the clinical scenarios. And this kind of facilitation demands a high degree of personal engagement and preparedness on behalf of the facilitator, and that he or she knows and is up to date on, for example, human bioscience topics, and of course knows the course of the virtual patient case that we use. At the same time, I don't mean to say that the facilitator has to know everything, because it's actually important that they don't, so they can learn regarding own level of knowledge and how to go forward in finding out what we don't know and discussing it in a group. Right. Then I want to go over to the presentation of the second example of the educational practices, and to continue emphasizing the debriefing in the virtual simulation. And here it is in the interventional radiology context, which is a continuous professional educational course. So it's a higher educational level than the bachelor education. At our university, we offer flexible, decentralized interventional radiology courses for all districts in Norway. And the measurements are taken to ensure the flexible component is online learning environment by using Canvas and Zoom, blended learning format, and student-active learning methods. So I'm going to share with you some preliminary experiences from this course, because we only did this last spring. This course that is outlined here on this slide is inspired by the structure and organization of the redesigned clinical course for the nursing education, with a slightly new twist at the end of the course. This is a 7.5 ECTS course to teach patient observation based on the ABCD approach, and we had 9 students enrolling into this course. So this was a luxury of a small student group. These students were educated as a radiographer, and all of them had work experience prior to this course. So these students were all novice and had a lot of work experience before. So we were kind of excited how it would be to work with the virtual patients and the reflective debriefing with the students with more experience, more knowledge, and from a different educational level than bachelor students. In January, we started with a webinar introducing the theoretical components and the professional knowledge regarding the ABCD approach. The students were divided into 3 groups, which were the same throughout the course. The structure of the group session was the same as in the redesigned clinical course. We used Zoom as a platform, the facilitator shared the screen and executed the actions for the students. The session were about 75 minutes, with the students rotating who was the most active students in the sessions. But often students chose to work in pairs because then they felt it was a little bit safer. We recorded the session for the students to go back to and listen to and look at. And the recording were not visible or accessible for all the group members. And as you can see here, it was also expected that the students would simulate individually before session 2 and session 3 as a preparation work for the group simulation. But actually, the individually virtual simulation session were also a preparation for the course exam, which was an oral examination where the students themselves had to share the screen with the examinators and to execute all the actions in the virtual patient case themselves. So therefore, the individual activity was as important as the group sessions. So the oral exam was organized as we could call it a typical OSCE, or as an objective structured clinical exam, where the students had about 25 minutes to click us through the virtual simulation case and to explain theoretically every action taken and verbalize the clinical reasoning anchored in the APCD approach. So the main highlights from this group session and the reflective debriefing were that all the students were not so different from the bachelor students, first year education. They also needed caring facilitation in the reflective debriefing. However, their engagement in the discussion and the depth of the discussion regarding clinical reasoning skills and critical thinking were more visible than most nursing students, of course. And they were really engaged in the discussion, and that just increased throughout these three sessions. And using the oral exam was a really good experience, both for the students and the examinators. And it was so obvious that the students, all the students came prepared. They all had individually simulated cases, and they knew the problem really well. So in the future, we are interested in advancing this kind of structure and building on our experience with reflective debriefing based on Socratic communication, and exploring a little bit more how we can use the oral exams more to kind of visualize better or emphasize better the clinical reasoning skills that nurses, students, and radiographers need to build throughout the education. And here we have some, just an example of our research work. I will be more than happy to share the slides. And on behalf of my research team and my group, I would like to thank you for the attention, and perhaps we have time for some questions.
Thank you very much for that amazing presentation. Yes, we do have some questions. We are going to let you know. ¿Nos pueden ayudar con los micrófonos, por favor? If you could wait just 1 second, and the microphones are going to be delivered.
Hello, and thank you so much for your presentation. I have one specific question. What are your thoughts about the learners doing an asynchronous debrief on their own and then coming together to do a synchronous debrief?
Really good question. I would say yes, please, to both. It's not, the students love to play with the virtual simulation scenarios, but it is, I would say the skills in doing both is really valuable. So if we pedagogically can plan both in a course, that would be really good, because they have to. It's quite different to do virtual simulation on their own or do it in a group of students, because you often don't know what to do wrong, why the patient dies. And that is kind of the thing that you can explore together in the group. We have also explored a little bit about using the older students, the third-year students, debriefing together with the first-year students. And that is also a thing that I would like to explore more in the future. But if I should prefer, I would prefer the group debriefing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta para la licenciada Hugrun? There is another question.
This is from my colleague. She's asking, how did you prepare the learners in advance of the debrief?
That's also a really good question. For us, for the group of nursing students, when we redesigned the clinical course, this was kind of new to all of us. And but when we came to the interventional radiographer course, we were more prepared, both us that facilitated the debriefing and the information that we gave to the students. And it was mostly the information was about, we are in this together. Everything that's said here, there are no wrong answers. And I can be wrong, I'm not going to know everything. We are going to find out of the patient experience of the clinical scenarios together. So it was kind of all trying to communicate that this was a collaborative learning situation for us all. So I think that we were kind of better to communicate that through Canvas. But since we should probably talk like this more to our students throughout the education, so this is kind of new to us all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we are just on time. Podemos darle por favor un aplauso a la licenciada. You are receiving a lot of claps. Congratulations for your conference.
Thank you for listening.
And thank you.